Hey guys, I hope you're having a really lovely day. I'm so glad that you clicked on this video because today I'm sharing some tools that I think are going to be really helpful as you rediscover the joy of eating and build a healthier relationship with food. So today's video, it's all about mindful eating, which is something I talk about a lot in my practice. If you haven't heard of mindful eating before, it's exactly what it sounds like. I like to define it as eating with the intention of paying attention. So I think we can all connect to the experience of mindless eating, eating a bag of chips in front of the TV, then looking down and realizing the whole bag is gone and you haven't tasted a single one, or shoveling in a fast food breakfast sandwich on the way to work, or, eating a bag of cookies and feeling so guilty about it that you don't even get any enjoyment or pleasure out of it. It's a lot less often that we experience mindful eating, slowing down and enjoying the taste and the pleasure of our food without any distractions. So I know mindful eating, it might seem a little fluffy or woo, but there's definitely a lot of research supporting its practice, which is one of the reasons I work on it so much with my clients. It's been shown to help reduce overeating and binge eating by helping you notice that point where you're satisfied but not stuffed, and also that point where food is no longer enjoyable to eat. I know it might seem kind of crazy that there would be a point where cookies are no longer enjoyable, but that actually happens with mindful eating because we get, along with fullness satiety, we also get taste satiety where we're just kind of burnt out on the flavor of eating one food. So we also know that mindful eating is helpful in the treatment of eating disorders and disordered eating, and it also helps improve the overall quality of our diet, because as you tune into how food makes you feel, you'll start to notice how foods affect your energy levels and mood, and it's a lot easier to make healthy choices coming from a place of self-care rather than forcing yourself to make healthy choices out of a place of punishment or restriction or dieting. And then, perhaps most importantly, mindful eating has been shown to help you enjoy your food more, which I believe that pleasure should be a goal of healthy eating. And, actually, there's studies that show that you absorb nutrients better from foods that you're enjoying. So there's some science to back that up. Now, if you want to eat more mindfully, here's 3 tips and strategies that I use in my practice. My first tip is to slow down. If you're a fast eater, it's impossible to notice what your food tastes like or when you're approaching fullness, especially since your body takes about 20 minutes to recognize that it's feeling full. As you can imagine, if you finish your meal in 5 minutes, it's so easy to eat well more than what you need. But keep in mind, this is a really hard habit to break. So if you're a fast eater, you might want to try things like setting an alarm clock for 15-20 minutes and trying to extend your meal that long, or putting down your fork in between each bite and not picking it back up again until you swallow your food. Now, my next tip is to pay attention to all the different flavors in your food. Sometimes I like to compare mindful eating to wine tasting. So if you've ever gone wine tasting before, you know how they have you pay attention to all the different flavors in your wine and try to identify them. So essentially try doing the same thing with your food. Slow down and see if you can identify all the different flavors and textures and smells. So if you're eating a freshly baked chocolate chip cookie, you might notice the buttery aroma coming from it. You might notice the slight bitterness to the chocolate or a cinnamon flecks in the dough. You might notice the flavor or the texture as it melts on your tongue. And that's going to help make the eating experience a lot more pleasurable for you. But also, by slowing down and paying attention to the flavors of your food, you might actually discover that some of the foods that you've been overeating aren't actually enjoyable for you. I always remember one client who told me how chips, which were something she used to always mindlessly eat in front of the TV, they didn't actually taste good anymore. She didn't like the greasy kind of coating that it left in her mouth and the excessive saltiness. So she stopped eating chips, not because she had to or because they weren't allowed on her diet, but because she just didn't want them anymore. So by slowing down and tuning into the flavors, you're going to get a lot more pleasure out of the foods you enjoy. And when you feel satisfied by what you're eating, it's a lot easier to eat the right amount for you. You're not constantly grazing to try to fulfill this unmet need for satisfaction. Now, my last tip is to not get too stressed out if you can't eat mindfully all the time. Mindful eating, it's a tool, but not something that you have to do always. Sometimes life necessitates chugging down breakfast on your way to work in the car, or eating in front of the computer, or eating while paying more attention to your kids than yourself. That's okay. Mindful eating can be as simple as taking a deep breath before eating and, tuning into those first few bites or checking in a few times throughout the meal. Eating mindfully 100% of the time, that's just not realistic unless you're like a Buddhist monk. Now, I hope this video makes mindful eating feel a bit more approachable for you. I know it's a practice that makes such a big difference for my clients, but can feel a little bit intimidating and difficult at first. Helpful to remember that it's a practice, and that means that progress, not perfection, counts. So again, I hope this video was helpful for you, and the next video I'm sharing is all about tuning into hunger and fullness, which these mindful eating skills will come really in handy with that. So I hope you'll stay tuned and have a good one.